David Shaw's club concluded 2016 with 7 straight wins to finish up at 10-3. Let's see what the Cardinal and White had for us to give us an indication of what's in store in 2017. We bring in Nick Dempsey from Rule of Tree following the Stanford spring game. Nick, what do you have for us?
Hey, Mark. So there's a couple of things I'm very excited about for the Stanford team. One, their first team defense looked real good today. They got plenty of penetration, were breaking up passes. They were just all over the place, and they dominated the offense in the early going when they were playing ones versus ones. Based on their scoring system, it was a little screwy, but the defense led 18-3, if that means anything to you. It does work out, trust me. But so the first team defense looked very good today. Last season, there was a bit of concern. Some injuries hit, particularly in the secondary, and they sort of had a lack of depth. And it kind of got exploited at times. But today in the spring game, they brought in at one point the second team defense to get plenty of reps against the first team offense, which I thought was really good for this team because they need depth. Because as dominant as their ones are, if they start dropping guys, the inexperience of the twos last year really showed through. So I think that was very good to see. I think this is going to be a sort of a defensive oriented team. Surprise, surprise. At least in the early part of the season, I think the offense is still going to need to get some rhythm going, but this defense is going to be very exciting. Another area, and this should come as a shocker, but Stanford going to have some good running backs. I know. We've never seen this before, but Bryce Love, we all know expectations are high for him. He's going to be the one. But right behind him are some really talented guys who had big days today, broke off some really great runs on several occasions. Cameron Scarlett, Trevor Spates, Dorian Maddox. These guys looked phenomenal today. And so I think, at least in the early going, it's going to be sort of trying to find out what are each of these guys' roles? Where do they fit in? Is there one that's more of a power back? Are we going to have, who's that guy that's going to move the sea of bodies 9 feet at a time? Who's going to be the guy you get out in space? Who's going to be the guy you go to on third down? Sort of slotting those guys into their roles in the backfield, I think is going to be interesting to figure out. But there's plenty of talent there. It's always going to be difficult to replace a guy like Christian McCaffrey production-wise for sure. But I think Stanford's going to be fine in the running game. On the offensive line, though, there are still some questions. Nate Herbig, their big up-and-coming guy, he was out today. And so they had line issues last year, and it really cost them. This year, they're going to have to find the right combination to get the line going again. Another question mark area is the quarterbacks. There's injuries they're dealing with, and did not look terribly sharp. But again, I believe they had 3, maybe 4 guys going today that they kept rotating. And so when you keep rotating, no one gets in a rhythm, no one gets comfortable. It's just about getting reps. And so there's, I don't want to glean too much from the quarterback play today, but there's a lot of talent there. It's just finding, the right answer for the long term, I think, is what's going to be important. And finally, we gotta talk about this is an actual name, Jet Toner. Stanford's got to replace Conrad Ucaprina, the kicker. Had a great career at Stanford. Got invited to the NFL Combine, but they need a new kicker now. And Jet Toner looked incredible today. He nailed a 40-yarder, a 47-yarder. He looked very sharp. You don't want to over extrapolate from a scrimmage like this, but it's always good to get kickers out in front of the crowd with a live defense, pressures on, music, distractions, all those things that it's a little difficult to replicate in a practice setting. And he came out today and looked very sharp. So, if he continues the trajectory he's on, Stanford could be just fine in the kicking game as well, despite losing a great guy like Ukrapina. So a lot of the questions were kind of addressed today, but David Shaw, I think, said it best, is that what are we? What's our identity right now? Are we sort of the high-flying, wheeling and dealing Christian McCaffrey team? Are we going to go more back to the old days where we just line up big and then smash everybody? That's a concern. It's a weird mix of like hyper talented young guys coming in and skilled veterans still there, while at the same time trying to replace some legends like Solomon Thomas and Christian McCaffrey and all these guys. So they're still trying to sort of feel each other out and find an identity. And I think over the summer and into fall camp is going to be, they're going to really start to do that. But the talent's there, and it's a very tough division they're in. You don't want to go too far with it, but this could be a very good team this year if they get a few key things figured out. But overall, it's going to be a good season for Stanford, I think.
Jed Toner. Sounds like he has a future at Hewlett Packard or somewhere like that.
It's difficult to search him on Google because of that, because you keep getting HP search results. But we'll all know him soon enough, I feel like, come the fall.
Yeah, and you talk about legends around the program, and Ukrapina, not necessarily a legend of that status, the Christian McCaffrey, Solomon Thomas mold, but he is the most accurate kicker in the history of the school at 82%. So big shoes to fill there. I'm thinking that the team might as well have scrimmaged Rice, considering that seems to be the only team that they're going to face in about 9 months, since they played them the last regular season game, and they're facing Rice in Australia on August 26th to open 2017. One of the ironies of scheduling, Rice back to back, in a sense, take out the bowl game.
Yeah, you can thank the weird deal they have with Pac-12 having 9 conference games, and then Stanford and USC both playing Notre Dame every year. Forces USC and Stanford to get a little creative with how they do some of their things to get that game in. But yeah, so let's 2-0 versus Rice, and they're playing Rice in Australia, so hopefully they'll be 2-0 against Rice on 2 continents. That's the hope.
All right, it was the Cardinal in the white today, the offense versus the defense in Palo Alto. David Shaw's crew getting ready for the fall. And the Rice Owls, of course. Nick Dempsey from Rule of Tree breaking down the game today. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Of course, Mark, anytime.